Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be continuing this sort of mini series that I have of artworks. As you can see, I have a few dragons here inspired by food, and I did them in a previous video, and today I'm going to be continuing that and drawing a few more dragons inspired by food because I had so much fun with the last video. And to be honest, I loved the breakfast dragon so much so that I actually put it on the back of my business card so that when people buy things from me, they get this little mini print that's basically a freebie. So that must be a sign that I really like them. So I guess I'm continuing them and making it a series. So for this first one here today, I've decided that I want to make a taco dragon because tacos are one of my favorite foods. I absolutely love Mexican food, or, you know, at least the closest thing I can get to Mexican food in Australia. And I decided to go with a hard shell taco because the semicircle was kind of an interesting shape, and I thought I could do something kind of cool with that, especially with, like, you know, salad and leaves and stuff hanging out. It could look a bit like a dragon's body. I decided to also go with a curly sort of lizard-like tail and just overall shapes here and there that reminded me a little bit of chilies. We even have two chilies here on the top of this little guy's head, and they are basically the horns of the dragon, and I actually thought that that was pretty cute and I liked the way it was going. So now it's time to refine this sketch and turn it into a piece of art, because we have a rough sketch here and I'm just adding in details here and there, trying to figure out how I want the front legs to sit, and I'm adding in a rough sort of base idea for all of the fillings that are coming out of the taco. For this one, I'm going with a pretty cartoony style. I really wanted to try and make this one kind of cute, kind of silly looking because it's a taco dragon. Like, you can't really take that too seriously. But as you can see, we have some nice line art here, and I'm going to keep the line art mostly dark because we are going to have some rich colors in this, and I've given this dragon some big eyes because I just felt like I really wanted to make this one kind of cute. So now it's time to add in some colors, and I started off with the main base, which was obviously the taco shell, and I used a lot of warm colors for this. I had a look at a reference of a taco shell, but I tried to even push the warmth and the saturation in the colors just because I really love doing that in my art, and I used a sort of grungy textural brush to add in those crispy sort of textures all over the taco shell, and I think it looks pretty good. Now for the dragon's body pattern and color, I decided to go with the inspiration of a jalapeno because honestly, I love jalapenos. They are one of my favorite chilies, and I love piling heaps of them on top of my Mexican food as well. So I actually decided to have a jalapeno body that is kind of half going ripe. If you don't know about jalapenos, most of them are green, and that's because people pick them before they're actually ripe because that's when they are their spiciest. But I wanted to have a little bit of extra color in there, so I added a little bit of red here and there, which actually does happen to the jalapenos. As well, as you can see, there's sort of like these weird sort of like stripe scars all over him, and that actually does happen with jalapenos when they grow quickly. Sometimes they can have little cracks all over them, and that's not a bad thing with chilies. Actually, I have grown a few jalapenos and they do get like that sometimes, and I just thought it was a really cool detail to add. I also added a little bit of smoke coming out of this dragon's nose because dragons obviously breathe fire, and tacos can be spicy when you add lots of chilies and stuff on them. So that's basically my reasoning behind that, and here is the final result of this guy. I love him so much. So this next one is another food that I absolutely love. You know, I'm a big food fan if you haven't realized, and basically all of these dragons and foods, they're basically foods just I love. But anyways, this food is ramen. I love ramen and noodles. I don't know, I guess it was a staple for me growing up. They're so good and filling, and you can just have any kind of toppings and stuff you want on top. And yeah, noodles, ramen, let's do it. So my main idea for this was to have a bowl of noodles at the bottom, and then basically noodles sort of coming out of the bowl and swirling around, and the noodles are sort of the base shape and body of the dragon, but the actual dragon's head and arms that are coming out is made of the noodle broth. And I really wanted to experiment a bit with the way that I drew these noodles, and I actually found a pretty cool way to actually draw them. I basically used a soft airbrush to draw in the lines for the noodles, and then I would basically select the whole area where I drew that line, and then on another layer I would color drop a darker shape, color, but it would go in the same shape of the noodle, and then you'd have this nice little shaded noodle shape. I don't know, I just thought that it might turn out cool, and it actually did. And I'm actually really happy with how these noodles look. I think that they just look so fun and noodly. Now this method was actually quite easy to draw all of the noodles, except it was just a little bit time consuming. But overall, I'm really happy with the way those noodles look, and I think it was definitely worth it. Now one thing I definitely wanted to do with the noodles is have them sort of swirling around and then go through, and then the dragon's head would be made of the broth, which I really wanted to try and do a sort of transparency effect on that, so that you could sort of see the noodles through the broth, but then have the noodles also come out the mouth and curl around, and that would be like the tongue of the dragon. That's my rough idea of it anyway. And I don't know how many times I had to redraw this broth. I just couldn't get it right the first time, and I was just like, no, I hate this, and I just had to redraw it. And then I tried with a bit more of a line art look and a different sort of blend mode, and then I didn't like that either. I felt like the thick line art kind of just made it look weird, especially with that sort of the noodles because the noodles don't really have that much of a line art. So I decided I had to try and go with a little bit more of a realistic kind of look. So I ended up going with really thin line art, and then I basically used multiply on the layer that I was going to have the broth, and then I used a soft airbrush to basically shade in some highlights and stuff, and trying just to get like a goopy shape for this broth. And I was so relieved when I finally figured out the way that I could have this this broth look like a dragon. Especially with those highlights, they look chef's kiss pretty good. Now filling the bowl was pretty much the same way that I did the dragon. I just did the same technique, and I had some of them towards the front just a little bit thicker, just to try and have a tiny bit of a depth look to it. I don't know if that's actually apparent or not, but I tried to keep all of the noodles in sort of shapes. So as you can see, there's like a little lump of noodles at the start, and then a little swirl of noodles after that. I just felt like it was a little bit more interesting than just having like a whole lot of lines just going everywhere. So it's like the chef sort of like picked up these noodles with like whatever they're serving it with, and like swirled it around, so that those little sections of noodles in that bowl there. I don't know if that's how chefs serve ramen noodles. I pretty much just throw them in the bowl. But anyways, once that bowl was filled with delicious noodles, it's time to add a little bit more detail. So I have a few here just sort of coming out of the bowl in an energetic way, and then I added a little bit of line art here and there just to sort of separate those sections of noodles, just to add a little bit more contrast. And then after this, I drew in some broth around those little sections as well, and then did the same sort of technique that I did to shade in the broth that is the dragon's head. And I just loved this so much. Like, look at it all just come together, and I love it. This is probably one of my favorite artworks, and I was so excited at this point because I realized I made something that I really liked, and I was so excited to actually finish it. But now it's time for even a more fun part, and that is just adding all of the little toppings all over the noodles and on the dragon. As you can see, we have some corn here, which I just think looks really cute. I really like the way that I drew the corn, as well as an egg and some seaweed down the bottom. And then we have these little rice cake things as well, which I just had to include because they look so cute. And yeah, I really like them. I think they add a little bit more interest to the shape and the silhouette of this dragon. Now for the eyes, I decided to go with some more chilies, but these are like sliced red chilies, and I decided to have them sort of partially in the head and then come out. So as you can see, like there's a darker area where the broth is, as well as adding a little bit of spring onions or shallots or whatever they are all over the dragon in little sections here and there, and also in the bowl. And I just think it looks so cool. All I had to add now was some little chopsticks, and I decided to go with a little bit of a bluey purple color because I felt like that just added a little pop of color that wasn't in there before. And after that, it is mostly done. I just have to add some little fixes here and there with some shadows, and wow, I really love this one. It turned out so cool, and it just looks, I don't know, I love it so much. This is probably one of my favorite ones of this little set here of little food dragons. I just think it turned out really cool and energetic looking, and his facial expression is kind of funny too. But wait, there's more. Well, kind of. I actually was really excited with this, and I decided to make these little food dragons here into a little set of stickers. So as you can see, I have printed them out now on some sort of really nice sticker paper that I actually got from my local Officeworks, and I am cutting them out by hand with scissors because I don't own a cutting machine yet. I will be trying to save up for that really soon because I've been so excited to get into making stickers. But yeah, these ones are cut by hand, and it was really fun to do. These little dragons mean a lot to me as well. I just really love their, I don't know, their personalities, and I just have a lot of fun creating things, especially dragons, because dragons are like one of my favorite things ever. And just to have them all in front of me as this little sticker set was just so satisfying. So if you like this art, I'm actually going to make these sticker sets here available on my online shop, as well as prints for the Ramen Dragon, just because I love it so much. So links for that will be in the description if you're interested. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed it so much. Hit that cheeky little subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you enjoyed my video. I hope you're all having a lovely day. Please stay safe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.